Okay. Didn't extract it. Oh, good. And the people running at least didn't hear me judge out. Okay. So anyway, this is our plan for the evening. We're going to begin with a slide presentation. Basically everything you ever wanted to know about pickleball, but we're afraid to ask. So that's going to take probably about a half an hour or so once we get through it. And we're taking turns speaking, so don't have to listen to me talk tonight. Afterwards, we're going to open up the floor for questions and comments. And just again, has everybody?
I'm sorry, could you pump up the volume a little bit?
You want me to talk? I can talk louder. That work?
Turn it up. It needs to be louder.
Is this? Hold on. Hold on. Oh, is that a little louder? Oh, okay. Better? Okay. So has everyone that wants to speak signed in? Okay, good. Finally, I just wanted to say that our role here tonight as the board is to present accurate information on this project and then listen to what you have to say on the topic. So let's get started.
To let some people know there's 4 seats in the front row here if anybody wants to sit down.
Anybody? Nobody ever wants to sit. This is not like church. Okay, just know it gets hard to stand. Okay, so we have the agenda. So why are we here? Section 3.17 of the Celebration Owners Association bylaws require that all association capital projects, which is what pickleball is, with an acquisition or development cost of $250,000 or more shall result in a board presentation to the community of total project costs, including acquisition or development cost, refurbishment, or outfitting cost, a contingency for cost overruns, work balance impact for 5 years or more, and future operating cost impact for 5 years or more. The presentation also address funding alternatives being considered and the impact of association operating and working capital funds. So this is what we're going to do here is provide an update and conduct a public conversation regarding overall amenities, the proposed Lot D project, and the continued emergence of celebration planning regarding items. So, the board and management has taken an active part in putting together this presentation. Lauren, bless her heart, has only been here for a couple years, so she was tasked with digging through all the historical documents and gathering all the meetings and the minutes and everything to become a part of this. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Charles.
All right. So amenity discussions are iterative. They take into account tons of data points, trends, gaps, preferences, and ultimately who responds to the survey. So what we're currently working with to guide these decisions is the 2019 Lowe's study. Which rolled on.
Just lean into the mic.
Can't hear me. Hello? There? Okay. All right, do I need to go back? Good. Okay. So the 2019 Low study is ultimately guiding this discussion, and that built on previous master plan studies. And really, it's a dynamic process because communities change, preferences change. So it's not going to be perfect, but it's obviously a segue into the next slide. What is guiding the discussion? Go to the next slide. So there were 15 guiding principles that came out of the 2019 Low study. And this is, as I interpret it, regardless of the study or who did it, it's basically to keep us in kind of our North Star in terms of consistency, what our goals are, and just make sure we're following the process correctly. So if we go to the next slide, we pulled out, I believe, 8 of these. So I'm not going to read these verbatim. But the first one, use the report from Low's design as a basic foundation to guide decisions. Make sure that we incorporate a good business mindset in whatever we do. Acknowledge that funding is limited, space is limited. So, to the extent possible, allocate funding on a pay-as-you-go basis. Give priority to those groups and topics where no facilities currently exist, which is why we're here today. To the extent possible, invest funding in projects that can be used across all age generations. Attend to the importance of balancing spending for immediate, lower-cost items and saving for longer-term amenities. And when building new facilities or enhancing existing facilities, attempt to extend the utilization capacity of these resources, lighting, geothermal, and so on.
So, recent amenities added by CROA. Now, I got my own mic. Yeah, okay. I will start over in a different direction. As part of your fees, some of the funds go into different reserve accounts. One of them is for building new amenities in the community. The dog park was completed, and that was a recent one, at a cost of $807,000, and the annual maintenance cost of the dog park runs just under $100,000. A Lot G was purchased, I believe, from the golf club.
Sure.
Yes. And prior to that, we had purchased access to the road, I believe, from the TCC, the Celebration Company. But the Lot D was purchased for $614,888. And then in 2019, just prior to the start of COVID, the soccer complex was built at a cost of $4.7 million of saved money. And the annual maintenance cost is approximately $300,000 for the soccer fields. Now the next slide is total development of the civic quarter. And if you look at the first number on the left, and then the third number, those are really for buying a lot and buying the access road acquisition. Then there's the dog park for $807,000, and then the other $4,570,000 is the golf course, and that's what we have spent reserve funds on up to this point in time. Now the reserves are added to each and every year, so while there's some years that we're spending it, there's years when we're adding to it, and we have a positive number in the reserve account.
Okay. No, I'm good. Okay, my slide. What is pickleball? I don't play pickleball, but pickleball is a paddle sport that combines elements of tennis, ping pong, or table tennis and badminton. Am I right? It is played on a court that is roughly half the size of the tennis court. Players use paddles to strike the ball. The pickleball itself is similar to a wiffle ball. According to Sports and Fitness Industry Association 2023 Sports, Fitness, and Leisure Activities Top-Line Participation Report, pickleball continued to be America's fast-growing sport for the third year in a row, according to the report. Pickleball participation almost doubled in 2022 increasing by 85.7% over 3 years. Pickleball is now up to a total of 8.9 million players in the United States over the age of 6 years old, an increase from 4.8 million in the 2022 report. What is the Lot D project? The Lot D project has a developable area of approximately 12 acres and is supported by an existing off-site pond, an existing pipe as a connection point for future development. No matter what we put on Lot D, significant water management and backfill must be completed. What is the Lot D project? The original scope of the project would include a new parking lot with 50 additional spaces, 8 pickleball courts, making the remainder of the lot pad ready for an open grass field for athletic play and additional overflow parking for our events. Moving the entrance gate to allow for key card access to the entire complex, which is now closed off to the community.
So the whole Lot D project history is long-term. This was not a short-run project. This has been in the works 3 or 4 years specifically. And when you see some of these slides, when it says the board, it means the elected board at that time. So there are 7 people here today. 6 months ago, there were different, some of the people were different. 3 years ago, there were, I think I might have been the only one who was here 3 years ago. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So over this time period, lots of places were looked at. I think the most recent iteration might have been this, with the Celebration Hall piece, tied in with that and looking at all sorts of different properties. These are the key ones that have been looked at and discussed at by a board over the last 3 years. Should we do it at the North Village Pavilion area or next to the pavilion and land that we own? Do we do it behind Heritage Hall or East Village? So all sorts of different places, and it ended up focusing on Lot D. These are parts of discussions, again, over many years. So if we go to the next slide, when we look at this, looking for a permanent location for pickleball. So, you know, looking at the K-8 tennis courts and discussions with the schools, all sorts of, again, different dialogue, different locations. And then it got, and I think we go to the next slide. Actually, we looked at Lot B. Lot B is right next to the dog park, the large dog side between the dog park and the CCDD building. So Lot B was looked at. You'll see in here, maybe it's the next slide, that we actually got, in the slide, where we actually got bids for Lot B. There were discussions at one point about reducing the size of the large dog park. So lots of discussions over this, and we involving the rec committee through this process. I should also note that in this general time period is when Grand Manners took over as a management company, with only a couple of personnel continuing from the prior management company. So all of that was happening in all of these deliberations. I think over the time period, various updates were put on the website and different reports and, you know, the Lowe study and presentations and different reviews. There was, again, we did some soil samples in Lot B and Lot D and what could go there with different considerations. When we look at this particular one, the board worked with management and a company called KPMF to do design drawings. And when you're looking at design drawings, again, over time, this is too technical, this is more Bill's expertise, but something called 30, 60, 90% drawings.
Yes.
And so it's like broad concept was before 30%. Several of us were in the room across Orlando. Again, with the prior management company, and broad concept. And so again, it starts with those 10 or 12 things at the beginning and then narrowing down to Lot D. That's how we got here. And then CROA Group was selected. So, because a lot of the expertise in managing a project like this, no offense to a management company, but this is generally beyond their scope. And so we went to a specialist who oversees specific, the bid process and then the oversight of actual building should we get there. And I think that's the end of our history. That brings us, so 2023 reviewing construction bids, that actually happened the last month or the month before, so very recently, and then proceeding with a potential vendor as Polly and working with them to look at options within the scope of work, and we will be looking at that shortly in this presentation.
So looking at costs to date, there have been engineering costs to develop the land and come up with the plan. That was $132,000 to KPMF over the last few years. Some permitting costs, and then most recently, CROA Group to be the owner's representative on behalf of Celebration and manage the RFP to put it out for bid to get the bids that were received. Of those bids that were received in February, there was one that was selected. And their original proposal at that time came in at 1.994 for this project. There were two other options. After that time, the board asked for some value engineering options to come up with some cost savings. And so they presented some, correct me if I'm wrong, it was in conjunction with some direction from the board and then some ideas that they had. And so if we can go to the next slide, the first, so this is the original scope with the original bid, and it included the new parking lot with 50 spaces, which is here on the right, the 8 pickleball courts in the center with benches and lighting, and then the parking area or the open field area. That is not a paved lot, just so that it's clear based on that drawing. So that is an open field area that also is available for parking. That was the original scope. After review, this is one of the options they came back with, which is clearing and grading that lot there on the right so that it is usable, but not a parking lot. It's just a grass area. Removing the parking lot, no lights and no furnishings for the pickleball courts. And then preparing the pad for parking and open play on the left side there. Another option that came at the same time was those same things as well, but also not just grading and addressing the water management, so not making it play ready on the open field area. And those are the two numbers that are back currently.
You know, as part of the response to the initial description of what we need to do to satisfy the covenants, we must also look at the operating impacts going forward for 5 years. So the areas highlighted in blue are in fact the costs allocated for the pickleball, because pickleball is 27% of the land, and it all has to have grass cutting, but not for the benefit of pickleball. So the actual pickleball operating costs per year are about $18,409. And those costs were reviewed with our landscaping companies to make sure that they were reasonable and typical for what we're paying. Now, also, what we have to do to satisfy the covenants, but also as a very good management practice, we look at the balance on the reserves going forward. We do that for the sake of this exercise for 5 years, but the community has a 30-year engineering study, which is updated every 3 years, was updated last year, and it looks similar to this. And without dragging anybody into a technical area, I personally get very excited about. The resurfacing number on the first line is what it costs to resurface the whole place. But the next line says 10 for the next column. That's 10 years from now. And then the years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is what the contribution needs to be. The point being that by the time we get to year 10, we've already saved the money we need to replace the resurfacing. And there's something like this for all the pieces in town. There's something for every building, every park. It's all accounted for, service areas. So this would be in addition to the 30-year plan. And then there's common site elements. But you can see that the annual increase in contribution starts at 23,905, and it's adjusted at 3.5% per year. So by year 5, it's up 27,000. But all of the numbers are going up at 3.5%. So this is just, again, typical for this kind of budget process. Now, also to make the lot more functioning, we're putting in the key scan system for 15,000. We're putting in security cameras, and there'll be signage, and those are one-time costs of $21,000. That's to outfit the rest of the property. Now, funding alternatives. We are within the guidelines of the covenants. We are capable of going out and borrowing money, but one, we need to borrow money because we have enough money in reserves. Two, it's contrary to the 2020 principles that were laid out as to how to do a project like this in the objectives that came out of the one of the studies. And the first two lines are the amount of people that would need to vote for the budget and the amount of eligible residents that need to vote yes to do a loan. That would be the standard for any loan for any purpose. And the next one, we also looked at special assessment. In other words, rather than use our existing reserves, we do a special assessment. Again, we're not planning on doing that. And voting requirements are the same as they would be for taking out a loan. And again, this is making a special assessment is again inconsistent with the guiding principles we said we were going to follow for this type of project. And the last funding alternative is we could go to the county for a contribution. Now, this was attempted when the soccer fields were done, and it didn't really go very far. I wasn't involved at the time. But whatever we do when the county gives us money, then it has to be a county facility. It needs to be open to everybody in the county, and then we would have much less control over how we wanted to manage our own resource. So we are not approaching the county. We think that it should be our resource, and we should be able to manage it in our own way without having to negotiate how we want to manage it with the county. So it leaves us with we're going to use our existing funds. Now, this document has been updated a number of times in the last 6 months. This is from the financial committee. And basically what it's illustrating is that there's an operating reserve and there's a capital assessment reserve, and money is added to those accounts every year. And looking at 2023, there's also a yellow line, presumably to take money back out of the account to cover the cost of pickleball. But you can still see there's a couple of $1 million left in the account. And that's if we do cap pickleball. That's just showing it if it were to happen, how much money we'd still have left in reserves. Now, if we were to do something along the lines of making the back end of this building larger and adding a couple of floors or wider and create more community space here, that's a possible use for the money maybe in 2024. Or we could do something with Stetson, or we could do nothing at all. These are just ways that the money could be used. And what we're trying to illustrate is that there's a running reserve that's added to every year, and then we deduct for it if we actually spend any of that money. You can see out at the end of 5 years, assuming we did something at pickleball, we did something here, and then perhaps we did something at Lakeside to assist with performing arts, we'd still have $1.5 million left in that reserve account. It never goes close to zero, and we always have money that's already in the account, and there's already money that has been contributed to out of fees in all these years.
Is that reserve capital improvement?
Capital, that's your capital improvement. There's also a replacement reserve account, which does things like fix up this building, but that's a different pot of money. And both of those are separate from the operating reserve, which is used to cut the grass and grind the sidewalks and do all the normal housing operations required.
Would it be helpful if you explained how the capital fund is funded, just for?
Well, at the moment, it's funded at roughly 500, and I think it's 525 for this year, and it's a sliding scale, so all the reserves go up a little bit as we go forward. So looking at that, it's 525 for this year, and then 546 for next year, and so on and so forth. Not massive increases, but it does go up.
But I think what Charles was asking was about the capital fund itself. We have operating account for operating expenses, which is the day-to-day running of the building. We have accounts for reserve expenses, which are there to, when a building needs to be painted or anything like that, that's reserves. And then we have this capital contribution fund. That money comes from the sale of homes in Celebration. Every time a home is sold, then the association collects 1 year's assessment at that time, and it goes into that capital expenditure.
Half of it does.
No, all of it.
The whole thing goes in there. They started that when I was still working here, because at that time, they realized, well, wait a minute, nobody's, we're not building now. We don't have any apartments anymore. And there wasn't any money coming in to do new amenities and things. So that's when they put this into effect. And now, of course, now has come Spring Lake, now is coming Island Village. We have apartments along the corridor, so, which is different. A portion of that goes in there. But every time a home is sold, 1 year's assessment is collected, and that money goes there. It does not come out of your assessments every month. Okay.
So it doesn't come out of your HOA dues.
Right.
And the point was to have money to build something if something is decided to be built.
Right.
Without touching anything else.
Right. Anything else? Okay. So much for the slide presentation.
Thank you.
Thank everybody for the part you played in this. So now for the moment you've all been waiting for. We're going to go into question and answers. So the way it's kind of rules of the road. So if your question is specific in nature, we'll answer it if we can. Something simple, one word, couple sentences will be good. If you ask something that will take a lot of time to respond to or may start additional dialogue, we might write that question down and then come back with an answer to the community tomorrow, the next day, the day after. Oh, sorry. After today's meeting. And this is for no other reason than to conserve time. Because we want to there's a lot of people here. We want to give as many people an opportunity to speak as we can. Okay? Because we would like to end around 8:30. So other time-saving measures. Now that this is over, I'm going to turn the meeting over to David, who's going to facilitate the question and answer portion. That's why he's sitting on the end there. We're going to take them in order that you folks have signed in. So if you were first, then you're going to be first to ask your question. David's going to read off the first several names, and we'll ask you to come in order. And then the first person step up to the podium, and the other few line up behind, and we'll have a queue going there.
Cindy, hi. It's owner's comments, not necessarily just questions. They can make statements as well. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can ask a question, you can make a statement, but you need to be an owner, okay? Okay, so then the lights before me against the wall. Oh, darn it. Oh, wait, you talk. Okay. And we're also asking that initially only one owner per household speak. Other members of the same household be allowed to speak if time allows. Again, we want to get as many people involved as we can from the start. And then each owner is going to have 3 minutes. Lauren, we have a time clock there. So if you're standing at the podium, you'll be able to see the clock tick down so you'll know how many minutes you have left or seconds. We ask that you save your applause until the end, only because, again, if somebody says something that you particularly like, if we stop for you to applaud, then it takes up time for people asking questions. So we know that you're all here tonight because you feel strongly about this topic, but we ask that you be courteous to your neighbors and speak only when it's your turn or if you're recognized by the board. So with that, David, take it away.
Is this on? Is this on?
Barely.
Can you hear me now?
It's on now? Okay, good. Okay, so as Cindy explained, we have owner comments. So, and
You gotta hold it up to your mouth. It's on, it's just not turned up now.
so as Cindy said, we have owner comments. I'll have you come up to the podium. We'll do it in the order listed. We have time for everybody. There's 23 households that have signed in. We'll start with Greg Felak, to be followed by the McAnam B home, followed by the Bumpus home. So we start with Greg Felak to come up to the podium. And if he's not here, we'll go right to McAnam.
Let's do this.
Well done, Cindy.
President.
Welcome.
That's why I paid the big bucks.
There's no nothing there. So we start the time and I'll stand up at 2:45 to remind you that your time is limited.
Not gonna hit a gong, are you?
See, you'll find out first.
Just making sure. Greg Filek, 1445 Stickler. I have one question, two comments. Number one, who was involved in putting together the projected numbers that were on some of the last slides?
You're gonna have to make the mic
Can't
louder.
hear you.
Or get shorter.
You know,
There you go.
Lean into it, Craig.
who all was involved in putting together the financial projections on the last few slides?
No? Do you know?
The operating projection or the capital projection?
Yes.
Grant Manners. Grant Manners did the operating budget and the financial committee did the projected capital reserve budget for the next 5 years. It's been updated a number of times.
So my two comments on this are number one, I've been involved with the school district doing a track and field out and back. So they're doing a 6-lane track, a full-size football field, repaving the parking lot, refurbishing 2 basketball courts, doing inside concrete work at the school. And they're all coming in significantly under the prices that are coming in on the contract here. So I'm not sure if it's the nature of the contractor that's been chosen or what, but I mean, they got 4 competitive bids. They sent me an extra company that does exactly this kind of work. So I think part of the consideration here for the cost is whether it's a competition element. I've shared some of those names with board members that have asked. I'm happy to share it with the rest, but I think there may be opportunity to get some of the costs down depending on who you're selecting in your company. The only other comment I'll put in here, I'm concerned as I look at the LOS study, the top priorities for the community, all of those would only fit on the only piece of land we have left to develop in the community, which is Lot D. I think pickleball is absolutely a candidate for getting built. I think it needs to. I have a concern that takes up a significant percentage where that makes it unfeasible to do anything else of a longer term project. So I'd ask you take a consideration. I know Lot B was unviable for 8 courts. I believe I had heard in that discussion a year and a half ago, it could fit for 6 courts. Would that be a viable option to fit into Lot B of downsizing this to a 6-court option so as to be able to save Lot D for that longer term plan for a community center and a full-size town hall?
Bill?
If I could, because there's an important point here. The school, I believe, you're talking about right out here. Yeah.
Speak into the mic so people understand.
Sorry, I assume that they already have their water management in place, but almost more than $600,000 is just for water management.
They are fully grading that out. There's water management going in for retention issues. They're having to completely regrade that entire area before they even do it. So when you talk about lot ready, I'm glad you brought that up because that's something else to address.
Thank you. Next in line is the Bumpus, to be followed by Carrie Mengel, to be followed by Lindsay Taylor. So please be ready.
McKinney? Mr. McKinney, who was on your side?
Go ahead, Bumpus.
Yeah, someone else was second.
No, one, oh, I'm sorry. That's my fault. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead while you're up here, and then McKinney.
Okay.
That's I apologize.
Okay, I don't have to bend down to get to the mic. I'm Danny Bumpus. I'm at 607 Front Street. 3 minutes isn't gonna be enough, so I'll hurry. I'm an architect. I was on the design team for the dog park, the CDE building, and the CROA athletic fields. We looked at Lot B way back then and just left it vacant because we didn't know what to do with it. When we did the athletic fields, we had prices to grade the remainder of Lot D, where this plan is showing the overflow parking and the fields. Back then it cost too much. In retrospect, it probably would only cost half back then what it costs now. So they didn't do it, and I've been to several events, and it works, but it's not very conducive for safety or parking. So, so Lot D, I think we do need pickleball courts. I had a plan to put 8 pickleball courts on Lot B, but I think the retention takes up too much. We could put 6 there. We need to put them somewhere. I also think if you choose to do Lot D, just do it all. Don't piecemeal it and do 50 parking spaces, pickleball, and then just regrade the remainder of Lot D. Go ahead and set it up for the fields. We get the more use out of that. Over the years, I've done several studies on putting a community center on Lot D. It's very tight. You don't get a whole, it's tough to get full-size basketball courts and all the other amenities in a building and then have any room left for parking. If the community center would be built, then yes, don't put any of the, but I think there's not going to be enough parking for a full-price community center. School board did. The school board, I have a continuing contract with the school board, as do all those 4 or 6 contractors that were giving prices for the school. They're very competitive. I sent jobs out to bid for the last 2 years and got 0 bidders. Everyone's too busy. I'm surprised they got 2 bids, actually. I don't know how many submittals they sent out, but they probably got rejected more than they got bidded for. Prices are out of the roof. The prices that are on the board are probably not even good today. They're going to go up by the time you sign the contract. If I had the crystal ball, I could tell you when the best time to build this is, but I keep thinking it's going to be the best time. And it's been 2 years and nothing's gotten better. So it's a hard decision. I think we need to, Lot B might work. Lot D would certainly work. I think you do it, go all out and do Lot D if you're going to choose to do that, not piecemeal it. Because once I have 11 seconds left. Because once you start, you don't want to leave it undone. You can't put a community center in the remainder of Lot D.
Thank you so much, Danny.
All right.
Thank you. Lots of good insights. 11 companies were asked to bid. And I think we got
9.
I'm sorry, 9 companies were submitted and we got 2?
2.
We got 2. Okay. I apologize, McKinney family. Yeah, please. Followed by Socha. No, I'm sorry. Followed by Mingle. Followed by Taylor. Go.
Perfect.
Go.
Thank you. Hello, good evening. Thank you for having us here to discuss.
Closer to the microphone.
Speak up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm so happy to be here. I'm very excited about this project and I'm obviously in support. So thank you for listening to us. I wanted to just say the addition of a pickleball court here in town. This will not only show that Celebration supports the health and well-being of its community, but that it holds true to the founder's desire to bring community together. I can tell you I've never met so many kind and fun-loving people before I started playing pickleball here. This sport has brought my husband and I so much joy. Now, when I first signed up for lessons with Harry, I was a little hesitant, but after just a few sessions, I found myself constantly thinking about the game and how much fun I have playing and when I can play again. And I was also dreaming of a time when we could play on dedicated pickleball courts without having to set up and dismantle temporary nets. It's a labor of love setting up the courts each day. Often my husband and I find ourselves just practicing drills on the tennis courts around town, just so we can quickly hop on a court and play. But this is far from ideal. One of the benefits of pickleball is its compact efficiency. Using the footprint of a standard tennis court, you can potentially provide surface for 16 people to play, as opposed to just 2 or 4 on a standard tennis court. I grew up playing tennis and I enjoyed the game right up until I injured my shoulder. It took years for my arm to recover, and I was terrified to play tennis again. When I heard about pickleball and how serving was underhand, and that one could play with such a compact, lightweight racket, I started to consider this as an option. And I'm happy to report that I've had experienced 0 stress on my shoulder and can power up a stroke with ease. It makes me smile every time I think about how this is working for me. And I know I'm not alone. I'm just one voice speaking in favor of this motion, but I am now a lifelong pickleballer. And I know that this is part of a fast-growing community of like-minded enthusiasts who sincerely hope this board will support this wonderful new sport that is enjoyed by all ages, and make it possible for us to finally have a dedicated pickleball venue here in beautiful Celebration. I also want to say my husband and I moved to Celebration because we love Disney. Lately, Disney has become so crowded, it's hard to enjoy as much as we used to. So we just love the opportunity to find something to fill this void. And we feel that pickleball is definitely a great option for us. And we have friends that have come to support us today who haven't even started playing pickleball. So we hope that they'll join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next we have Peter Sosa. Is that right? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Followed by Carrie Mengel.
Good evening.
You can come over.
I'll shorten my comments by quite a bit. My wife and I have lived here 9 years. We live in Spring Park. We do not play pickleball. We're some of the unusual ones, but we do support permanent pickleball courts in Celebration. We think there are 16,000 people in Celebration. It is the fastest growing sport, as Celia mentioned earlier. It's also the fastest growing sport, and I don't think you mentioned this, the demographics of pickleball. I don't know how many of you know, but the average age in Celebration is 39 years old. You know what the average age of a pickleball player is in the U.S.? 38. The demographics, the split on the demographics between 18 and 24, 20% of the pickleball players in the U.S. are between 18 and 24. 40% are between 25 and 34. The fact that in Celebration we have more of our more experienced people playing it does not mean I'm in the group. Okay, I'm very much in the group. But the fact that we have what you see is not necessarily what is actually happening. I play tennis out at Lake Nona a lot. And every Saturday morning, the kids are out there just laughing and playing and screaming and having a great time. We live next to the Montessori school. That's my white noise, is hearing children play and laugh. And an interesting thing about pickleball that most people don't realize is men and women, boys and girls, young men, young girls, they play together. They're on the court together. How many sports do we know where that's the case? It's just a few. I mean, I can't name very many. And so I think a community like us, and Jim, I understand your proposal. I read Jared's statement this morning, your proposal on putting lines and things like that on the existing courts. Well, then you're taking away from existing amenities in order to put on pickleball. And so I understand why you would want to do that. And Jared, I understand what you're saying about the 851 building and things like that. But I think the one thing about Celebration is we've always done quality. That's why people moved here, because of the sense of community and the quality of the community. And I think pickleball, for one thing, if you've been around pickleball, you know the noise of pickleball. I don't think the people in Carlisle or in Mirasol or anything like that would be particularly pleased with lines on the court and pickleball there all the time. That's just my guess. But we do need pickleball. We support it strongly, and I hope the board supports it.
Thank you.
Kendall, followed by Lindsay Taylor and Steve Northridge.
Right in line with him. So I hope you'll please consider the pickleball courts for Celebration. Since my husband and I moved here permanently over a year and a half ago, we have enjoyed many things about Celebration. The amazing people, the diversity, the fellowship, events are of genuine interest in the community. I have never experienced before anywhere. I also see that in pickleball, a game for all different levels, a place where a 15-year-old can play alongside someone 70 years old. How often do we see that? Diversity, cooperation, trust, friendship, a healthy lifestyle thrive here. The volunteers are amazing, and it's something most communities are doing. Why not us? Please consider that this is an incredible outlet for community bonding.
Next up, Lindsay Taylor, followed by Steve Northridge.
Yeah.
And Matt Luttenberg.
I was gonna say, I think it'll move a little bit faster if you put a line, if you kind of line up here and then we don't have to wait.
Yeah.
And again, please, if you can, I know this is very exciting and everybody wants to show their opinion, but if you can cut down on the applause, that would be great. Then we can just move through because we want to get everybody in, okay?
And for the people in the back, we still have 4 seats up here,
Yeah.
empty.
So, okay. Hi, Lindsay, go ahead.
My name is Lindsay Taylor. I live at 1111 Indigo Drive. I have been a business owner in town since 2011. I own X Factor Dance and as a partner program here with Town Hall. I've been a resident since 2013 and a homeowner since 2015. I do not envy the job you all are doing right now, and I appreciate it. I just want to say I have one question and then one comment. My question, could you clarify the Lowe's study and what, I think it was hard from where I was sitting to see what the priorities were. I believe the community center was close to the top, but I think parking was the #1. I just wanted to clarify that.
I think parking is not within CROA's jurisdiction, so it was
Correct.
omitted.
That's a non-applicable.
Yeah. Community center performing arts facility, active adult and senior center.
And then my one comment, I'm involved in this community. I'm a mother in this town. I'm a business owner in this town. I have serious concerns with spending money on anything new right now with the current state of our current amenities. We have so many things that are falling apart, and it's just a big concern for me. I'm not pro pickleball. I'm not anti pickleball. I just feel like there's a lot of things in our town that are falling apart that need to be handled first. I also share the concerns that Greg Bilek mentioned about Lot D being kind of our last piece of legitimate land. So that's all I have. I appreciate you all.
But Lindsay, can I ask you a question? When you say amenities, what do you have in mind when you say?
I mean, the one building, Heritage Hall. I mean, the baseball fields that are being used over. I know that that's the county, but I also mean Village. I mean, okay. All of the drainage issues in soccer. I mean, there's a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Followed by Matt Luttinger and Dick Larson. I'm Steve Northridge, 1130 Tapestry Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this topic. I would like to ask for your support of the Lot D project and specifically the pickleball component. There's been a lot of discussion in the media regarding the pickleball as the fastest growing sport with 8.9 million players in the United States. However, I don't think enough attention has been paid to the evolving demographics of pickleball and how it can touch all corners of our Celebration community. The average age of pickleball players was 38 years old in 2021, down from 41 just 1 year prior. Pickleball player growth was the fastest among players under 24 years old at a 21% growth rate. Major retailers are recognizing the marketing potential of growing pickleball community with its diverse demographic and are targeting this community with advertising and promotions. One recent promotion from Walmart is giving customers and Walmart Plus members access to complimentary pickleball court time, access and competitions all year long. Stepping back from the statistics, I became an advocate for pickleball and Celebration after I was introduced to the sport in Ocean City, New Jersey. In Ocean City, they currently have 11 permanent courts and are building an additional 10 courts. The pickleball community in Ocean City is vibrant, with upwards of 150 to 200 participating on any given day across 3 sessions in the summertime. Moving to the community center in the winter months when it's cold. In addition to the exercise aspect, the smiling, the laughing, and the sense of community that abounds is infectious. This is my why, or motivation to be an advocate for pickleball in Celebration. I believe we can build on the nucleus established by the Celebration Pickleball Club to create the same vibrancy in Celebration. Combined with the exercise component of pickleball, we would address at least 2 of Celebration's cornerstones, the sense of community and the focus on health. We've worked with different CROA boards for years to bring pickleball courts to Celebration. The capital budget is now in place, and the time is now. I further suggest that if lighting cannot be addressed in the initial phase, that be added as soon as possible to allow maximum participation from all demographics. This will provide access in the evenings for those working or going to school during the day and provide a cooler alternative during the hot summer months. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you, Steve. Followed by Dick Larson and Linda Camarillo.
Matt Luttinger, 1334 Flagstone Avenue. Lived here since 2007, full-time since 2020. Member of the Finance Committee of CROA Subcommittee and its current chair. My concerns are the limitations of land we have here in Celebration. The Lot D is last big piece of land. I think it should be saved for a community center. This building, as we can see, is falling apart, needs a lot of work. I think we need to fess up to all the neglected maintenance we have in the town and take care of that in a recessionary economy. I'm concerned about how Maname is going to be continue building over the next 10 years. I think they're going to be taking a slow down, a vacation from building after they finish the homes that are currently under construction contract, and we should be careful about that. Some of the numbers in our reserve stud, our capital fund projection, are just a projection. One course of action. I'm concerned over the years about resales that we would have in this community and get funds may slow down over the next few years. We shouldn't be counting some of the money that we have in the next few years before we actually have some better statistics on the economy, which is softening and not improving. That's why I have a concern. I'm not against pickleball. I wanted to do it after we take care of all these things. So maybe the best option for pickleball would be in the Lot B, where you could get a few courts and have new courts that are dedicated for those folks, but save the Lot D for something else. Thank you.
Thank you. Dick Larson, followed by Linda Camarillo, and then someone who's eligible. 1138 Mosaic, if I'm reading that right.
Thank you. Dick Larson, 1112 Mosaic Drive, long since 2005. First, thank you, CROA Board, for scheduling this workshop and allowing all of these residents to comment on this particular proposal. Personally, I have read the approximately 300 pages of information that are on the Celebration website regarding pickleball. I've participated either in person or via Zoom or Team in many CROA meetings on this topic, and I've read the Facebook posts as well. I strongly support pickleball, but what I'd like to do tonight is address some of the concerns I've heard in meetings, not so much tonight, but in other meetings on pickleball and especially on Facebook. So the first concern I hear, which is frequent, why do pickleball in Celebration? What value does it really bring? Of course, it brings benefit to many residents who play it, but I think the issue is actually bigger than that. It keeps Celebration competitive with the surrounding communities that have already invested in pickleball. As a result, and consistent with the board's fiduciary responsibility, pickleball will help maintain or increase property values. Whether they play pickleball or not, it really benefits all owners and Celebration as a whole. The second concern I've heard is that the board hasn't been transparent in the process of developing these proposals. In my opinion, the board has been, and prior boards have been extremely transparent.
There have been dozens of meetings on this topic over many years. There's been extensive analysis, including the evaluation of 12 different sites, as was mentioned in the presentation earlier. There's been over 300 pages of material on the website on this topic. So in my experience of 17, 18 years here, this board has been more transparent than any I've seen in the past on a major issue. Third concern is going to be afford pickleball. We've heard that the projection for the capital fund, which would fund pickleball courts, will be around $4 million by the end of the year. There's really not an issue in funding pickleball, funding and repair of this building and many other topics as well. So to me, this is kind of a no-brainer. This brings value to Celebration, keeps it competitive with other communities, adds value to all owners, not just pickleball players. We can definitely afford it. Financing it is absolutely not an issue. And I really think it's time to move forward and finish this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Camarillo, followed by Eileen Barr, to be followed by David Eastman. Linda Camarillo? Okay. Then we'll have Eileen Barr. Eileen Barr.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't see Linda. That's not Linda.
Okay.
From what I can see.
Hi, Eileen Barr, Eileen Barr, 1138 Mosaic Drive. I make it absolutely clear that I believe that the pickleball project is a very good project, that having designated pickleball courts to Celebration will be a plus for this community. But more importantly, and I enjoyed the presentation, because what I really want to see is the civic corridor starting to take form, to be completed. We have the wonderful dog park. You come in, you start down that road, it looks beautiful, and then you hit Lot B, which is looking better, but not great, and then D, which looks barren, and you know, nothing's being done on it, and the whole area needs to start gelling. It needs to start coming together. It needs to be an area where I always think that there are a lot of people in Celebration who don't even know we have the civic corridor. The athletic fields, that we don't even know that where they are, where they're located, because they're just not relating to it. What we need to do is start getting projects out there like pickleball, where we will get people out early in the day, during the day, not just after school or, you know, when people coming home from work have a couple of hours to play, but where a lot of people in the community can use these facilities on a daily basis, that they look nice. And I think somebody made a very good point. Celebration has always stood for quality. And to me, the playing fields, the civic fields, soccer fields, really just don't have that look yet. And I think we really need to get there. We need to make it part of the Celebration community. Everybody needs to know about it. And we need to get activities out there that everybody will appreciate and use on a regular basis. And pickleball is a very good place to start.
Thank you, Eileen. This is followed by David Eastman. It was followed by Kim Holderness and Mark, I'm going to say Falcone.
David Eastman, 11 Blaze Street. My wife and I have been residents for 18 years now. Thank you for having this meeting. And thank you for the presentation, which provided residents with some factual data. I really appreciate that. I'd like to expand on that a little bit by encouraging my neighbors to visit the official town hall webpage, find out more information specifically about the pickleball portion of the Lot D project. Just do a web search for Celebration Pickleball Project to see everything that's been discussed tonight and that has transpired in our community over the past multiple years relating to this project. Please don't rely on hearsay. Go to the source. Some residents have shared a concern that this project is being rushed through by a very small group of local residents. But if you look at the facts, you'll see that this is not the case. Pickleball has been on the town's radar since at least 2013. More direct discussions since 2016, and actual board engagement and oversight since 2019. That is not being rushed. The reason this has grown so much is because of the increased interest for permanent courts from more and more residents in our community. Our club started in 2016 with just a handful of residents. We have never required players to sign up for the club, and we still don't. But we've asked people to sign up specifically to show numbers to this group. In 2019, when we started tracking those that voluntarily submitted their information, we had roughly 50 residents on our roster. Fast forward to today, and we have 277 Celebration residents that have voluntarily added their names to our roster. And yes, this number does account for those players that we know have moved or informed us that they are no longer interested. We are extremely confident the usage numbers by residents will increase significantly with permanent courts. When you compare our numbers of residents to those that use the other amenities, soccer fields, tennis courts, or many of the other amenities, you'll see that this is substantial with and on par with these other amenities. Some neighbors claim we should build amenities only once a majority of residents agree. With over 15,000 residents in Celebration, that would require almost 7,500 residents to agree on a topic. It's not going to happen, and it shouldn't. For a community like Celebration, the goal is to provide a wide variety of amenities in order for the majority of residents to be able to find something to enjoy. We've talked about a few of the other items I have on my list, so I will cut those out. I will talk real quickly about the financial concerns surrounding the project. I won't talk about that, others have, but I'd like to finish with a discussion about the location. It's always referred to as the pickleball project. It's not. It's the Lot D project. Pickleball is 27% of the project.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So,
Thank you, David. Kim Holderness, followed by Mark Falcone, followed by Mike Jackson.
Good evening. Thank you for letting us speak this. Oh, sorry. Thank you for letting us speak. I support the building of permanent pickleball courts in Celebration. This has been a multi-year process, and since the pickleball club was founded in 2016, there has been so much growth, both in the country and in town. There were only 60 Celebration residents in the pickleball club by the end of 2020, and now there are around 275. All this from starting with one court on the concrete under the North Village Pavilion to now 4 undersized courts in Georgetown. Our youngest member is 12, and our oldest are in their 80s, and they are all able to play together. How many sports can say that? We have a range of player types, from just enjoying being outside and socializing to strong players who go and play tournaments at a high level. We are lacking the space to be able to grow much more, as we already struggle to give all our demographics their needed playtime. I hear so many stories about how pickleball has enhanced our players' lives. Some have become a lot healthier with this enjoyable exercise. For some, it has given them the social life they really needed. Until you try it, you don't realize how addicting this sport can be. It can become a major part of your everyday life. It keeps you physically active. It's mentally challenging, as there's a lot of strategy, and it's very social. Many people will choose a place to live because of pickleball communities. I strongly believe these courts will make our community more attractive to new potential residents. I also believe that they will bring more revenue to the businesses in town. We can hold tournaments and charge non-residents for the court time to bring more money into the community. There's never going to be an amenity in town for the majority of residents. I don't use the tennis courts, the pools, the fitness centers, the playgrounds, or the dog park, but I do appreciate that they're there for the residents who want to use them. That's what is needed in a great community, a variety of amenities and activities. I understand that it's a lot of money to decide to spend, but the leveling of that lot will have to be done at some point. When it's done, it's going to cost a lot of money, whatever we put there. As well as pickleball, we'll have more parking in that area and more grass space for other sports to play. The money is available. After all the time and effort which has already been invested in this, the time is now to move forward. Recently, 4 top tennis players played in the pickleball slam in Hollywood, Florida. John McEnroe, Andre Agassi, Andy Roddick, and Michael Chang. It peaked at nearly 800,000 viewers on ESPN, which beat other top sporting events at the same time, including the Miami Open tennis men's final. So I'm going to end this with a quote from Andre Agassi at the end of the event. He said, "As long as I can walk, I'm playing pickleball. I can't wait to get back on the court." And I think that's a major endorsement for our sport right there, and I wholeheartedly agree. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Sorry to keep cutting you off. We're staying on track and you're all doing well. Thank you very much. Mark Falcone, followed by Mike Jackson, who was followed by Alexa Kamal.
Good evening. I just wanted to get some clarification. I have no problem with pickleball, right? Like I understand it's very popular. There's a lot of enthusiasm behind this. But I heard rumors that the pickleball may take part of the dog park. So I wanted to see if that was true or not, because I love community involvement. I love when community gets together. What I don't want to see is individuals in a community that have an agenda that will impede from the rights and privileges of other community members and take things away. As long as there's enhancement, I always like to look at things the highest and best use. This sounds like something that's awesome for everybody, a lot of support. But just make sure that it's community first, not individual desires first.
And to be honest, that, I mean, because as David said, we discussed over the years, discussed many things. And one of them said, well, we could always, bleed into the big dog park side. And it was like, are you kidding me? So that's a no.
It's again,
And that would be on Lot B. We're talking about Lot D.
Yeah, that's why I want to get clarification, because you hear a lot of rumors. And I've been to quite a few of these board meetings and I'm still learning. And we always learn because we get a lot of disinformation from outside.
Thank you.
That's why we're glad you're inside. Thank you. Mike Jackson, followed by, whatever I said, Alexa Kamal, and then, how to read this name? Brian Kinsel.
Who? Cancel.
Good evening, Mike Jackson, 413 Sycamore Street. And I'm a member of the Finance Committee since the inception also, which started a few years ago. I'm going to apologize. Can you hear okay? I'm going to apologize for going through some numbers, but I think it's the only way to communicate this information and provide some context, and I don't have a PowerPoint. So some information regarding Lot D to help you put things into perspective in the civic corridor. Lot D is 112,500 square feet of unpaved land. The soccer fields are 276,250 square feet. It costs $4.57 million to build, and the annual operating cost is $300,000. The dog park is 81,200 square feet. 6 years ago, as you saw, that cost $800,000 to build. It has an annual operating cost of just under $100,000. The construction for both projects has been fully funded from the capital fund. The pickleball site on Lot D is 30,000 square feet, which is only 27% of the Lot D 112,500 square feet. Quite a small portion of the lot. It is 2.5 times smaller than the dog park. Based on the most recent polling bid, which I heard some discussion about in option 1, if you allocate the overhead cost, the drainage and the leveling and grading, the overhead costs of this project based on square footage and assigned direct cost, the pickleball total cost is approximately $645,000. This is 43.7% of the cost for Lot D, which totals $1.476 million. The annual operating cost for pickleball is approximately $18,409. Let me say this again. The cost for pickleball courts is approximately $645,000. Compare this to the $800,000 for the dog park and $4.57 million for the soccer fields. The land work, you heard this too, the land work at any site on the civic corridor has been very expensive. In this project, the site mobilization and storm drainage, just those two elements total $600,000 in the bid, regardless of what you put on the property. Projects like these are funded out of our capital fund, not our homeowners fund. The balance of the capital fund at the end of February, last financial statement we had was $3.257 million. For the remaining 10 months, the budget go into the capital fund is $671,000. So at the end of the year, we'll have about $3.9 million or $4 million in the capital fund. Each year, about $800,000 is added to the capital fund. We have the funds for this project, and we'll have others and have funds for others in the future. A draft 5-year capital plan has been prepared, as you've seen. In my last few seconds, those of you that are here for pickleball, would you just stand for a moment?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. Followed by Brian Kinsel and Kim Hannon.
Hi, everyone. Alexa Ball. I own 828 Runner Oak Street. So I wanted to start off really quickly with the financial aspect because I'm very careful financially and I do not want to see like big dues go up, special assessments, things like that. So the capital funds, I just want to clarify from what I understand, it is different from the operating costs. And you mentioned another category too. Reserves. Reserves. So it's important to know that capital funds are different from operating costs and reserves, and we have the money for that separately. So that's really important for me to know as someone who owns, and I've owned for a couple years now. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself and why I am in support of this project. So my name is Alexa. When I moved to Orlando in 2009, I came to go to UCF. Moved back home to Miami. Then my husband and I, back then, who was my boyfriend, high school sweetheart, we drove around town because his sister had an interview at the hospital. And in the meantime, we were driving around town. We're like, oh, we're going to live there one day. And we did. So we moved in. We were residents for a time. Then we wanted a bigger house with a yard for our dog, and we knew we couldn't afford celebration size for that. So that's okay. So we left. Oh, we missed it. We came right back. It took us 2 years, and now we own a duplex, and we're super happy. So we recently had a baby, and pickleball has been really important to me since then because I'm not very athletic. And I have found with pickleball that I'm able to play with people of all different ranges, with beginner to advanced. And it's just really cool to see that I'm able to play with my husband, who's a firefighter and very athletic. My parents, who are in their late 50s, early 60s, who are athletic as well. And I'm able to play the game with them. And everyone has been so kind and welcoming. And I'm 31 years old. So I think that's really important for the community to see that age range. And I know a lot of people mentioned that before, but I think it's really important to say that again, because again, that's what we love about Celebration is it's really a community. It's not just a place to live. I left, I came back for stuff like this. And, you know, I use the playgrounds for my son. I would love to use pickleball more, but it's really hard without permanent courts because of my time and working and everything. So thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexa. Brian, followed by Mary Fitzpatrick, and then Anthony Lopez.
Hello, board members.
Hello, Brian Kinsey.
Brian Kinsel, 708 Golf Park Drive. For those in the audience, I was on the board from March of 2018 till September of 2022. My first board meeting discussing pickleball was January of 2019. There has been nothing rushed about this. We have beat the holy living daylights out of it. And we looked at every single location. I've walked fields with members of the pickleball community. I've walked fields with architects and stuff like that. When you look at the top priorities, we said parking was not ours. When we looked at a community center, we spent a lot of time, myself personally and others, looking at a community center, and we figured out one of the celebration standards was going to be $6 to $8 to $10 to $12 million. We said that was an amount of money that we were not willing to think about. That's how pickleball rose higher up there. Pickleball is not the project that we are discussing here. We are discussing Lot D. Mr. Filak, who spoke earlier today, and I have discussed lots 1 and 2 of the soccer field and how poorly they drained. When we tackled Lot D, we really wanted to get the biggest piece of land made so that it can be used for soccer and everything. I encourage you to do the whole lot ready thing. I spoke at the last board meeting. I'm going to say it again. I think it's a big mistake if you don't fix lots. Fields 1 and 2 on the soccer court. You've already got them coming out here. I don't care if you spend 1.4 million. Spend $1.8 million.
Amen.
Enough people have looked at the money. Give the soccer people a win. Give the Lot D people a win, and do the right thing so they're both behind us. We can afford this as a community. We have a lot of money for operating. We have a lot of replacement reserve, and we have the capital funds. When you look at a community center, it really needs to be in this building, and you need to blow it up or blow it out. I think everybody knows that, so let's be honest. What I would like to do is thank you as board members. I have sat in your seats, and it is hell sometimes. On Facebook, it's going to be 51-49 sometimes, and we don't take polls. We vote for board members. If you choose to proceed or not proceed 4-3, that is okay. Do what is in the best interest of the community. But we can afford this financially. It fixes Lot D. It creates a lot of additional space for sports when we do the pad ready properly. Fix field 1 and 2. Spend another $250,000, $300,000. It puts the issues of Lot D and soccer fields behind us forever, and then go worry about the next thing. Thank you.
You say blow it up or blow it out. I think you mean extend in one direction. Just to clarify, is that, can I see you nod? Thank you very much. Just to be clear. Where were we?
Kim Hannon.
Brian, oh, Kim Hannon, I'm sorry. Kim Hannon, and then Mary Fitzpatrick, and then Smithy Sipes.
Yeah, I thought you mentioned Anthony Lopez after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony Lopez.
Did I miss?
Tony
Is Kim Hannon is next. Ken Fitzpatrick. Oh, Anthony Lopez. I'm sorry. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you to the CROA board for giving everyone a chance to speak to you tonight. I am a strong proponent of pickleball. I used to play tennis till about 3 years ago, incurred a rotator cuff injury, and looked for something that I could do. And as someone spoke earlier, you serve differently in pickleball. It has been a tremendous social aspect now to my life. I've met so many great people in town and from places around the country. As a matter of fact, 2 of my grandchildren are visiting. They're from Denver. They're 10 and 12, and they've already learned how to play pickleball in intramural programs at their grammar schools. It's just a tremendous sport. And a lot of people have already made the points I was going to make earlier. So I would just ask the board, when I, as a prospective resident, my wife and I drove around, you look at the Hippodrome Park, you look at an amphitheater, you look at volleyball courts, you look at a lot of different things. And as someone said earlier, they're done with quality. I will never play volleyball. I'll, not use the amphitheater probably unless someone I know gets married there. But they are wonderful things. The community benefits from them. And as the board that the community elected, I'm asking you to look at what is needed in this town. It's an amenity called pickleball. It will benefit the town, and any prospective resident coming in to look at Celebration will say, boy, that really added to the wholesome character and desirability of Celebration. So thank you.
Mary Fitzpatrick, and then Anthony Lopez. And then I know we have a couple of hands raised. We'll get to them. Hands raised online. We'll get to them after all the in-person comments. We're doing well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mary. Am I speaking loud enough?
No. Into the microphone.
Hello, my name is Mary Fitzpatrick. I live at 1360 Celebration Avenue. I've been a resident for about 6 years. And I've been asked to speak or volunteered to speak about the clinic, which is one of the things about pickleball is that we've had clinics to build up interest and encourage people to try the sport. And the clinics have been just wildly successful. I think one of the things about the clinics is it says a lot about Celebration in terms of these aren't professionals that are coming out and wanting $20 to teach you how to play. These are all Celebration residents volunteering their time, that have had experience with playing pickleball, and just giving up their own free time and organizing clinics and teaching us all the basics. And I'm here to tell you, as a somewhat successful graduate of that it's really just been a wonderful experience about meeting so many people and learning about the sport. So I'm here to attest to the fact of reading, you hear in all the media, oh, it's easy to learn. It is. You really can get out there, and after one clinic, kind of sort of know what you're doing. And by the second or third time, you really know what you're doing. And by maybe the fourth or fifth time, you really know how to keep score. But I think that the fact that, we have our own people encouraging others and everyone comes together. I think several people have touched upon one of the other things about pickleball is that it's unique in that it's a sport that's fun, and it's from 8 to 88. I could tell you a couple of stories. One of them being I was playing one day with one of our teenage boys. It was just like a Tuesday afternoon after school. And I'm playing with him. And all of a sudden he waves over to the entrance, says, "Hi, Mom." And I looked over and I was like, that's not his mom. And he goes, "Oh, that's my pickleball mom." And I realized that she had helped him practice his serving and getting him ready for, there was a local youth tournament, and he did us proud and came in third place. But it was just that camaraderie. The other thing that's common is that everyone's new to the sport. You get a paddle, you buy it on Amazon, and then you get a little bit better. And then you don't know whether you want a big one, a small one, a long one. And so everyone shares paddles. Here, try my paddle. I think the days of COVID are over because we're all swapping paddles around. Like, here, try this one, and see if you like this one. So the camaraderie of it cannot understated. So I think it is wildly successful here in Celebration, as well as the rest of the United States, as everyone knows. And I strongly advocate that we bring it into our town full time. And I think it's an excellent investment for a community, for all of us, for all ages. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Anthony Lopez.
Am I the last one?
No, we've got 3 more live.
Okay.
Followed by Pam Koske, Ken Kozarek, can't read it, and Will Newsom.
Oh, what about me?
Oh, Smitty.
We're doing all those who checked in first. And then we have 2 online. If we have time, we'll do others.
No,
You already said my name.
he said
his
name.
Anthony Lopez.
You
didn't check he wanted to speak.
Oh, I didn't?
No.
He did say my name.
He did say his name, but
I'm sorry, read Anthony Lopez.
I thought I checked in, I'm sorry. I've definitely got something to say.
If we have time.
Well, so thank you, Board, for the opportunity to do this. I don't like following her. She was terrific, right? Kim, your comments are terrific. Everybody's comments are good, pro and con. Like many of you, I've had a corporate career and lots of business experience. I was blessed to have a career where I ran a large publicly traded company with thousands of employees across the globe. This is what my staff would call a no-brainer. It's data-driven. All the data that I saw today, which is the first time I've seen it so well presented by the board and by others. Maybe you made some, and Mike, absolutely fabulous. I don't like the numbers so much, but the presentation was so obvious. The only thing that I haven't heard today said, maybe it was and I missed it, was if we were designing this community 30 years ago, would pickleball not be in the center of the design? I think the answer would be, of course it would be, because today there isn't a community being built anywhere in America that doesn't have pickleboards in the center of the community. So to me, it's like, if we want to keep up, and I know we do, and we want everything to be quality, and we know we do, and we want everything to be attractive to every generation, and we do, why are we still debating this? So I hope the board will give this a ready thumbs up. The price is good. We can always do better if we can find better bids. But this makes perfect sense. And again, it's a no-brainer. So please support it and let's get it done. Thank you.
Pam Koske, then Ken Kozarek, Will Newsom. You can say your name right.
Hello, everybody. My name is Pam Koske. I'm not only a resident for almost 20 years, but I'm also a real estate broker and a broker owner of a couple real estate companies throughout my career. I would tell you how long I've been doing real estate, but that would age me, and I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to let everyone know, many times I'm asked as a real estate professional, do we have pickleball courts? And I have to kind of say, well, somewhat, because we do have them in Georgetown, which is actually where I own a condo. And even though I can just walk down my steps and go right to the pickleball courts, I don't want to because I don't like setting up those pickleball courts. They are not easy, and everybody that plays pickleball with me knows I always show up about 15 minutes late because I like to make sure that the courts are already set up. That's true, right? Leave early. And I leave early. That's right. I come late. I leave early because I don't want to take down and put up those pickleball courts. And the other thing I would like to say regarding the real estate aspect, because from what I understand, everybody who bought a house here continues to buy a house here. That's where those funds are allocated to, is for new amenities. And I can tell you that people want pickleball courts. And it's not just for a 55 and older community, as people stated here. It is a family sport where your children can play with you and you can gather together as a community and welcome something new and exciting. So I do hope that you guys will put the permanent pickleball courts up so I don't have to show up late for pickleball and be early because I don't want to put up those courts. Thank you.
So Pam, you know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen now? You're going to show up 15 minutes late and everybody else is going to be there 25 minutes late.
I know. Yeah, that's okay. They know it. They know it.
Ken, you can pronounce your last name, please. Followed by Will Newsom.
My name's Ken Kozlik. I'm 1841 Beach Ridge Road. We've talked about everything this whole meeting, from finances, from the size of the courts, from the size of the lots to which lot was supposed to be in everything. It's a good idea. I mean, I'm an avid player. I try to play as much as I can when I have available time. My girlfriend, she's a realtor. Her son, he's 12 years old. He'll play that versus playing video games, versus watching TV, versus just sitting at home. He's there almost every single day playing. He loves it. And on top of that, if we do it on Lot D, that's just about big enough that if we actually chose to do, let's say, a tournament, some type of competition, that's revenue for this company, for this community. That's something that no one's really talked on yet. The celebration. We do things nice. We've got the exotic car show. That brings in hundreds of people. That brings in thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the community. We've got the races, the marathons. We've got so many different things that go on that bring in and generate money and bring things to celebration that enhances this community. Why not this? This works. We've got 24 plus people, half a dozen days of the week, that are sitting there waiting to play on the courts that we have just in Georgetown. We don't have enough space for them. That's just them standing around for a good amount of time, waiting to play for a short time, instead of being able to get on the court and just enjoy several games and enjoy the social aspect of it as well. So that's my 2 cents on it. I mean, everybody here agree, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We're followed by Will Newsom. And then we're going to have Mr. Sykes. And then we have 2 from online.
Thank you, board. I'm Will Newsom, 1517 Castile Street. I will say when I walked in here, I was kind of pickleball agnostic. I didn't care one way or the other, and it was kind of had me wanting to try it out. I am very thankful to live in a community that we're thinking about amenities and the future and trying to make it a very active community. So that's great. I do have, aside from that one comment, 2 questions. I'm a little concerned about the price tag. Sounds pretty expensive. Is it possible to go to reattack on the bids to see if we can get some better prices?
So the bid, the RFP was issued to 9 different, the RFP was issued to 9 different companies, only 2 responded. After only 2 responses, I inquired with CLIC, which is the owner's representative group. If we went out to bid again, do they think that we would get additional responses? And in their professional opinion, they said no. It's just the marketplace right now for this size of a project.
And my second question, it's related, but maybe a little bit beyond the scope of Site D, but it sounds to me like regardless of what we put on Site D, once we do that, Celebration's kind of done. There's nowhere else to build anything of significance. So strategically, have we put any thought into that? In other words, can we expand the footprint of Celebration so we have more options to have more discussions like this for more amenities 5, 10, 15 years down the road? Anyone knows the answer to that?
It's called Island Village. And then I think beyond that, that's whatever. Now,
is there any land there for amenities?
Yeah,
There's,
but I don't know that how much the homeowners association, how much input we would have into that, unfortunately.
It's not our land.
Yeah. It's not our
okay.
land.
Well, and back to my original question, is it feasible to think we can expand what is our land in Celebration? I'm not talking about next year. I'm talking about 20 years from now.
There was Celebration Hall Group last summer, an amazing job at looking at every parcels I didn't even know were parcels, up and down Boulevard and other places. And there are very few options. There are parcels up on the Boulevard. Many of them come with restrictions by Disney, who owns them, as to what can be built there. They have their own plans. Within the town, we have this property. Once pickleball is built, that's only 27% of the property, so we could build something else there. After we accommodate the wetland and the water retention and all the issues associated with Lot B, we have about 7/10 of an acre to build on. And of course, we also have to deduct parking spaces and things. So there isn't a lot. There is beautiful grassy areas in all the neighborhoods. I don't know that any of the local villages would want anything built in their neighborhoods. So there is land, but getting more land, such as going behind the lake downtown, that's highly regulated by, 4 different water and landscape government entities are watching that already. So we can't jump the lake and go back in there.
But Bill, I do think, so if we go back prior to the Lowe study with the pre-master plan, there were village by village, like barbecue grills and splash pads, right? So that was all also built upon, so that still exists too out there.
I think the experience at Heritage Hall shows that there's going to be a vein of NIMBYism no matter where we try to build. I'm allowing for that. I think it would be great if we used a lot of the grass areas near the neighborhoods, but I don't speak for the
I
people that live in
got
those
one
neighborhoods.
comment on that as well. So yes, there are little parcels of land, big grassy areas and things. When my husband and I first moved to Celebration, we built our first home, and it was on Indigo across from they call it Crescent Park, a big piece of land there. We paid a premium that was 25% of total lot price, a premium to have that lot across the street from the park. But our realtor told us, just because there's nothing there today does not mean there won't be something there 5, 10, 15 years down the road. But what we've found recently, found it with the dog park when we were looking at that, and any other croquet, any other project that we have tried to locate somewhere in town on one of these fields, everybody wants it, but nobody wants it in their backyard, which is what, not in my backyard, NIMBY. So it's an option, but not really. So unless people change their minds.
Watching our time,
yes.
We had 3 who signed in after we actually started. So we're going to do Smithy Sykes and then Shelley Wright and Emily Smallwood. So we'll do an observer, 2 online, and then we have board comments and hopefully end by 8:30.
Appreciate it.
Smitty Sipes, 505 Campus Street. 15,000 residents, 250 registered pickleball players, $2 million. I think every one of those registered pickleball players is in here today, if I'm correct. And that's 1.5% of our population. Now, do they deserve a court? Yeah, I think so. I think they do. But we need to look at other things first. We need to look at the rot. Look what's been staring you in the face all night behind this pipe and drape. That needs to be fixed. We need to fix Lakeside Park. We need to fix Heritage Hall. Go down and look at the amenities at Island Village. That's what every village should look like. Artisan Park, they need a kid's playground. They've never had one. They need one. Every other place has one. We need everything fixed up to standards before we go to pickleball. If we don't, our home values are going to go down. Will pickleball bring our home values up? Yes, but not if everything else is decrepit. When I go to swim, every day I go to swim at Lakeside Park. I see Celia down there sometimes. When I go to swim at Lakeside Park and I go in to change in the locker room, it looks like I'm in a high school from 1960. It looks terrible. When I go to swim over at the other one, Heritage Hall, it also looks like a locker room from 1960. When I go and walk in Island Village, it looks like I'm in a luxury town.
It's new.
It's new. It looks like Lake Nona. People are going to move to Lake Nona over Celebration because it looks better. People look at all our amenities, not just whether we have pickleball. Again, 1.5% of our population is pickleball. There's a bigger percentage of everything else. I want pickleball. Yes. I want everything else fixed first.
Thank you. Emily Smallwood. Then we'll go online for 2 questions.
Hi, I'm Shelley Reiki from 1121 Indigo Drive. I happen to agree with everything the gentleman before me just said. Also, what Greg Felix said about the numbers being too high. I work in economic development. We do small and large projects in Polk County every day. It seems extremely expensive. I'm not sure why we can't get that number down. It concerns me that Lauren said there's only 2 companies that want to put in for this. That should be a concern. Why are there not more if this is the up and coming and growing thing? Kim, do you have something?
I think she said because they had other things going on, they had bigger projects than our.
Well, there's a lot of companies that could put in for this if we go outside of Osceola or what. I don't know how you do that. Also, I asked that, what do we have for elderly residents, handicapped residents, things that a community center would do that works for all of the community, not just people that can play pickleball. No. So I'm not a pickleball player, but I'm not for or against it. I would love to see it come here, but not at that cost and taking up the fact that we can't have a community center once you put it on live TV. So the gentleman before said that Ocean City had 10, I believe is what he said, 10 courts. They have 69,000 residents. We have 4,500 owners, if I'm correct. Someone can tell me if I'm wrong. Why can't we do 6 courts? Why is the pickleball community so upset about the fact that some people just want 6? We want to have it here, but 8 seems excessive for the amount that we're getting. Again, going back to my biggest concern is what is best for the community, what we would have for elderly people, what we would have for handicapped people, what we would have for everyone, not just the people that play pickleball. And I'm not opposed to it. And I would love to try it, but I'm just saying the cost is a lot. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. And we're going online for 2.
Hi, thank you guys for having us and for giving us the presentation. I'm Emily Smallwood. I live at 1223 Green Square. I've been a 10-year resident here with my husband and 2 children, very active in the community. Pickleball honestly sounds fun after listening to you guys. I knew nothing about it before this. It sounds very fun. I'll give it a try at some point. I just am very disappointed that this is a higher priority than a much needed community center. as it's been mentioned before, this place is falling down. So the building that we're in currently is falling down and it looks horrible. Other parts of town do not look pristine and quality that we want to have as a Disney community. So I understand that Brian earlier mentioned that it was too costly to build a community center on Lot D. But my question to you is, what is the plan for a community center with that last bit of real estate being used if you guys proceed with pickleball? So what are the plans for a community center, whether that is expanding this building, refurbishing it? I'm concerned about sense. I'm an accountant, and so would like to see the money spent on a community center higher priority versus an activity, any activity amenity spot, whether it's pickleball or something else. So that's my question to you guys, and I don't think that's too broad of a question.
Well, we've been obviously tossing it around, especially with what happened during the hurricane with this. And somebody mentioned earlier that probably the most cost-effective way to get a community center would be to do something with this building. You cannot put a second story on any part of this building, but you can on the what's called the activities room there, that very far room there, because that was built later. There's also land that can bump out, where the patio is over there on the side. You could take that and extend it there. You could put a second or maybe even a third story on top of that area. The office staff could move over there and take up some of that space. And then all this entire building would be left for meeting rooms, community center type stuff, whatever, maybe an indoor basketball, I don't know. And then depending on how many floors we put in there, maybe the lower floor of that would be something where maybe that's it. I mean, this would be, to do something with this building would probably be the most cost-effective way to do it. Would you not agree, Bill? You were
No, I would agree. I mean, there's other considerations. We've had some discussions about Stetson, but Stetson tends to be problematic. It's also addressed in that Celebration Hall report of last summer. We don't own it. But this is the most cost-effective. And the thing is to fix it first, get it back to what it was this time last year, and then get all the programs up and running. And at that point, we can plan to make an addition on the back if that's what we do, or if we go with Stetson or something else.
So to be clear, Bill,
Thank you very much.
to be clear, is this building falling apart?
No.
Okay, so we have two comments or questions online.
Are we at board comments?
No, we're at two questions online. One is from Roger.
Why are we talking back and forth between the board?
I
asked him a question.
Question, my answer.
I understand. That's what talking back and forth in the board means.
That's okay.
So
Roger,
we're at owners' comments. Let's focus on owners.
Namesake is online with a question or comment.
You need to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Hi, Roger Niemczyk, 717 Honeysuckle Avenue. First thing I'd like to say is Island Village does not have pickleball courts. If it was such a important amenity today, they would have included pickleball courts in their development. They have a beautiful facility down there. We were at the pool and the community center and the gym, and it makes all the rest of the older amenities in Celebration look terrible. The next point I'd like to make is we have golf in our community. Oh, no, wait, that's not a Celebration amenity. That's a private business that has a golf course. Maybe a private business would like to build pickleball courts somewhere around our community. It's happening in the Philadelphia, PA area. There's actually 6 facilities going up commercially. Maybe that's something that's going to happen and there will be no need for pickleball courts. The other comment I would like to make, which was Smitty, I think it was, said that this is 1.5 to 2% of the population of Celebration is looking for this. I believe that the amount spent, which is, when I saw the notice, was 1.5 million, I think, on your presentation, is just keeps going up. At the last meeting, it was $900,000 if we didn't do anything except for the courts and the paving. The numbers keep changing. And the reason it seems to be a rush is at that meeting, someone said, well, we only have about 15 days to make a decision against the contractor's bid. And when you hear something like that, that sounds like a rush. Again, very disappointed in that when the numbers come out and it's only about 2% of the population of the community that is going to be involved with pickleball currently. I think our money can be spent better somewhere else. Thank you.
We have one last online hand up. Is he still there?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Camera not working.
It's not gonna just go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, my camera isn't working. So my name is Paul Shategiri. I live at 1226 Roycroft Avenue. As many of you know, I've been very vocal about speaking out against the pickleball courts at Lot D. It's not that I'm against the pickleball courts. I think pickleball is a great sport. I played tennis. My dad plays pickleball. He's been telling me to get into it. I think it'd be a great sport. I just think the way it's been gone about is totally wrong. 1 million, 1.5 million, whatever that is, that cost is too much. The tennis courts that we have now can be repurposed to be used for pickleball. And that cost could be anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000. I get a lot of people love pickleball. It's a great way for them to get out, but most of the community doesn't want this. And if you do this, I know it's going to be a 4-3 vote. It's going to pass. So I just want you to be prepared. There's going to be a referendum coming. There's going to be a petition, and this is going to go to the vote to the community. So either you can nip this in the bud now and find other solutions, or we can just go with the referendum and let the community speak on this. Thank you.
Okay. So that completes our owner comments. We're back to you, Cindy. I think we move to board comments and then we adjourn.
That's right.
Can we check to make sure no one else has a hand?
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Sign up, but I'd like to see.
Sure, come on. And then you'll be the last, because I know the board members have something to say, although we did start a few minutes late, so.
We'll go to 8:32.
Okay. So I'll be quick. My name is Stephen Malsky. I'm at 1580 Resolute Street. I participated in some of the Facebook talk. I've talked with some of you. I'm not for it or against pickleball. I had a training session and it was fun. I loved it. It was great. But I'm not sure about the pricing. You're talking about 1.4, 1.5. That's the minimum that I've heard. Things keep going up. The impression, first of all, I'm a new resident. I'm only here 6 months. So I can only give you my impression. I'm not privy to all of the repair issues and the amenity issues and how we should spend our money. I'm concerned about who we're talking to because we're all using the term residents. But if you're non-owners, if you're a renter, you shouldn't have a say in this. So I'm very leery about when I hear the word residents. I'm also leery when I hear the word demographic because the age groups that you quoted in the demographics, I can assure you that most of us in the room do not fit into that demographic. So it's fun, it's great, but if there are things that need to be repaired to make the community at large more attractive and more functional, those are the things that need to be considered first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to our town.
Yeah, all right. Who on the board would like to start? Jared, you want to start, or do you want to, David, do you want to start? You're on the end.
I just want to say thank you for everyone who came and spoke. I learned a lot of things tonight, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to come and sit here with us tonight. So thank you.
Jim?
A couple things. One is in terms of the capital improvement fund, that was a board decision to put 100% of those that revenue stream into capital improvements. we as a board are allowed to move funds to different, back to operating expenses. Our only rule is that we need to keep $250,000 in the capital funds. This decade has been an unpredictable decade, and it continues to be an unpredictable decade. I don't think the argument that we have enough money, so let's spend it, is a good one. I have heard tonight, and I've also heard by reading the many emails that many residents sent, that two things I know for sure. There are a lot of people that want to play pickleball on courts that they don't have to jerry-rig. Okay, there's a lot of people. There's also a lot of people that do not want to spend 1.5 million. So with our current proposal, those both can't happen. So I'm just going to end by reading the definition of the word compromise. An agreement or settlement of a dispute that is reached by each side making concessions. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Charles?
Thank you for coming out. No, I have 2.5 pages of notes, and this was a great session. Thank you to David for keeping us on track. Thank you.
We'll skip me for now. Celia?
Yeah, I'd like to say something that I wrote down here. First off, Jim, I wasn't speaking out of turn when I was talking to Bill. I was referring to the building falling down as that lady over there stated. So I was just asking Bill for the facts since he was here today.
My apologies.
Okay, first, I just would like to thank everyone for coming tonight and for all the emails you sent. It was a very eye-opening experience, and I want to thank Jared because he helped me respond to the overwhelming amount of emails that we received. Thank you, Jared. I also saw that there was a lot of information in the emails that came in. So I hope tonight's presentation was helpful. And as I look into this audience, I see all the residents of our beautiful community. And whether we agree or disagree at the end of this day, we're all neighbors and we have to remember to be civil to each other. We have discussed the 8 courts, grass pad for approximately, grass parking pad for approximately 200 cars. If anyone was at the egg hunt a couple of weeks ago, you very well know what the parking situation is down there, and especially when we have large events. We need something set in place for overflow parking. Also, that's going to be extra playing fields for the kids. So we're not taking anything away from the children. We're just adding extra grass fields. And on one other last note, I take my role as a director very serious, and I will not have my integrity. You could sit and laugh if you want. I will not have my integrity questioned or be accused of doing anything inappropriate, as innuendos have been out there. Since I've been on the board of directors for 2021 till now, I have been totally honest with the community on every aspect. Am I perfect? No. But I am not a liar, and I always want what's best for this community. So thank you for coming tonight, expressing your concerns, but that's how I feel.
Mr. Grindle.
I cannot add anything to Celia's word. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, David?
That was beautiful, Celia.
It breaks my heart to see the animosity that's going on in our beautiful community. As simple as that.
what I appreciate about tonight, and at least one person said, thank you for the facts. There is a lot of misinformation out there, and to put it all in one place, I think is helpful. I would say, having sat on this board, this is my 7th year on the board, and following all of this, this has been a long, I think Brian references, this has been a long process. I don't think anything was new from a public perspective, except for the dollars tonight. I don't think. Virtually everything there has been discussed at one point or another, maybe even 3 years ago, but always in a public setting. So it's all been out there. This tonight put it all together in one package. There's other moving parts that happen. People talk about a community center. That's been my passion from day one on the board. And we'll end up with a community center. And however we end up with pickleball, I'm not sure how that's going to come out. I was glad that someone brought a pickleball, I don't even know what you call it, pardon me, because I've seen them, but I've never really seen. Thank you very much. So I've never held one, I've never played, and I can't say I'm interested, but who knows. But I think what's important tonight is that we put all this together. There's a lot to think about. I really appreciate the thought that went into each of the comments. I was taking notes while I was trying to misread some of the names. Sorry about that. But I really appreciate the respect that people gave to one another and listened. So appreciate a nicely toned meeting. Thank you, Cindy, for orchestrating.
Thanks, Cindy.
So, my question. So, it's the board's duty to protect, preserve, and enhance the property values of the community they serve. The last couple of years, especially, it's become obvious that everybody disagrees on what an enhancement is, or is it needed or not, or where we should put it. We had the CROA group. We had years ago the dog park. There was a board member at that time that found out that we were looking to one of the vacant lots in town that was by his place, and he threatened to sue the board if we put it there. So, I mean, this is not a new discussion, but this discussion, I think, is the most divisive I've ever seen. So, unfortunately for us who are sitting up here. Hopefully many of your questions were answered tonight, but I bet you some new questions have taken their place. I know that some of you believe this is a done deal. Was I leaning in one direction when I came here tonight? Honestly, yes. But I also came here tonight to listen. And speaking for myself, I'll continue to do my own due diligence and hopefully arrive at a conclusion that's in the best interest of the community overall. None of us is, the CEO said, none of us is perfect. You know, we all had different real jobs in our life. Some of us are still working and have jobs, and we all come from different backgrounds, different areas around the state. I mean, we're as different can be. But that's a good thing because we bring all kind of different perspectives into the process. So between now and the 27th, you know, we'll all be thinking, we'll all be studying, we'll all be learning, we'll all be talking to more of you. You know, you feel free to send, if you were here tonight, or you know somebody who wasn't here tonight that maybe watched something, their question wasn't answered, please have them feel free to email the board. I think there's only one thing, and Lauren, the rest of you can correct me if I'm wrong. There was only one comment. Oh, I know what it was with Greg's comment at the beginning. I would like to find out why there's such a discrepancy in what the school is doing and what we're doing. You know, I would like to find that out, and we'll put that out there. But I think we were able to answer most of the questions and cover some of the concerns. Sir, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, just very quick. I was nervous standing up there, and there were two things that I neglected to ask. So. Come up after. Come up after. This is really important. I haven't, other than parking, I haven't heard anyone say anything about studies on infrastructure impact.
That's not us.
traffic. But shouldn't that be a concern?
Well, it's a concern, but that's part of the, not misinformation. A lot of the emails, negative emails that we got focused on things that CROA has no control over, like the infrastructure, like the streets, like the downtown area, like the trails. And I mean, so many other things that we can't control. Those are other pieces of the alphabet soup.
Right, but when you become the center of the universe.
Sir,
Yeah.
I don't, excuse me, I don't want to interrupt you. I'm not about interrupting anyone, but we do have to follow the protocol of the meeting.
Yeah.
Owner comments have closed, so we're
Yeah.
just going to finish with the comments from the board.
So we thank you. And again, thank all of you for coming. Again, I encourage you, if you have more questions, email us and we'll do the best to answer. And with that note, Lauren, one more thing.
The PowerPoint will be posted online for everybody to view and look at, along with some other documentation that we prepared.
Do I have a motion?
Thank you.
All in favor? Thanks, everybody.
Yes, they still.